Hi, I know a lot of you all are working on Unit 3 right now in Chapter 5 and 6 on probability, and I wanted to do just a few examples just to make sure you all are aware that there's lots of ways to calculate, especially the binomial probability, using either your calculator or statcrunch. And I know the formulas sometimes look a little scary and long and all that, and they definitely can be time-consuming if you're trying to do it all by hand. So I want to make sure that you all are aware of the calculator option and also statcrunch. There's probably ways to do it in Excel too, but I'm going to show you statcrunch and calculator methods. And when you're working on your final exam, you can do it any way you want. You can do it, formula-wise. You can do it with calculator or statcrunch. Any of those, it doesn't matter. So I was looking at this example here, asking about a binomial probability experiment. Okay, and so it just gives you the basic parameters that you need, right? So one thing you could do is using your calculator here. If we go to distribution, so that's here in the second variable, so second variables, and we're going to go down to binomial. Okay, so we have these two options here, binomial PDF or CDF. The PDF is just like the formula that you would use where you plug in the values, the n choose x, p to the x, 1 minus p to the n minus x. That is the PDF formula. So if we use this one in the calculator, we are trying to find the probability that x is equal to a certain number of successes. The CDF is for cumulative, so C is for cumulative. So what it does is when you put in a value, it adds up the probability from 0 up to that value. So it does a less than or equal to. So if you have an x less than or equal to, then you can use the CDF. If you have an equal to, you use the PDF. So this one wants to know the probability that x is equal to 5. So we're going to use the PDF. All right, and then you put in n, putting your number of trials, then your probability of success, and then your x value. And I got, it says 4 decimal places, so it'd be 0.2340. All right, so some of you might have calculators that have the prompts. The prompts in there that actually tell you what to put in. It'll say like trials, probability, and x. But other calculators, mainly older versions or ones that are kind of a level down from the other ones like this one that I'm showing, it just has you actually have to kind of remember what order to put the values in. But if you have the prompts, you type them in, then once you push enter, it'll come out looking like this, and then you just see the answer from there. Now, if you wanted to use statcrunch, you can do that too. So for statcrunch, you go to question help and go here to the statcrunch. And I'm going to make it a little smaller if I can. All right. Okay, so in statcrunch, really, a lot of times with statcrunch, I don't have everything memorized, so just kind of go through here till I see something that looks like what I want. But for this one, we're going to go to stat and to calculators. And the stat calculators has all these different probability functions. Now, we're only going to use the binomial and the normal eventually, but the binomial is what we want right now. So click on the binomial. And, it gives you this fancy graph and all that, but really all we want is this down here. All right, so this is the binomial calculator. And here it says n, and so our n was equal to 10. Our probability here is 0.45. And then we want to know the probability that x is equal to 5, right? So we'd say compute, and then we get that 0.2340, which is the same thing we got with our calculator, right? So that should be our answer. All right, so that's how you can do ones like those. Let's see if there's another one I'd like to do. Okay, so one like this, 34% of U.S. adults say they're more likely to make purchases during a sales tax holiday. We're randomly selecting 10 adults, so that means our sample size is going to be 10. Find the probability that the number of adults who say they are more likely to make purchases during a sales tax holiday is exactly 2. So that means we're looking for the probability that X is equal to 2, right? So we could do binomial PDF, right? We have 10 trials again. Our probability of success here is 0.34 because we're thinking about how likely it is for them to make a purchase, right? And it says the chance of that is 34%. And then we want to know the probability that exactly 2 of those 10 would do that, right? So we get 0.1873. And for this one, for whatever reason, they just wanted 3 decimal places, so make sure you're kind of checking on that. Now it says greater than 2. So for greater than 2 on the calculator, greater than 2, when we're thinking about probability, greater than 2 would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? If we have 10 possibilities. So the calculator only has the PDF and the CDF. The PDF does equal to, CDF does less than or equal to, right? So if I want a greater than or a less than or something that's not equal to or less than or equal to, then I'm going to have to use some combination of PDFs, CDFs, and the complement rule. So for this, where we're doing greater than 2, we could think about the opposite. What's the opposite of greater than 2? So if greater than 2 includes 3 through 10, the opposite of that would be 0 to 2, right? 0, 1, and 2. So the easiest way to do that is using the CDF, so using less than or equal to 2, right? So we would do the complement rule, so 1 minus, and then we'll go back here to the distributions and get a CDF, right? And we're doing 10.34 and 2. Right? So the binomial CDF of 10.34 and 2, that is the probability of 0, 1, or 2, right? And so if we want the probability of 3 or more, then we'll just subtract from 1 using our complement rule. So we would get 0.716. All right, the next one that says between 2 and 5 inclusive, you could do that a few ways. If you're going to do it on the calculator, what you would probably do, 2 and 5 inclusive would be 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? So you could do the PDF for all 4 of those and add them up, right? Like you would do, let me get this up again. The PDF, we already know the PDF of 2, right? It's 0.187. Then we can do the PDF of 3, of 4, and of 5, right? And so now we have these numbers. We could add them all together, and that would give us this, right? But actually, in one like this, it would probably be better to use the statcrunch because of the way it's asked. And statcrunch actually makes it a little easier to calculate some of these. So if we go back to our statcrunch, let me see if I still have it up. Yeah, there it is. So this one, I think, let me see if, yeah, up here we had it kind of just set on the standard. So if we wanted to do, we've got 10.34. And on something like this where we want to do greater than, we can actually just select whichever one we want. So it doesn't have to just be like the calculator that only does equal to and less than or equal to. StatCrunch will do the greater than, it'll do any of them. So that's actually a nice feature. But 0.716, you see, is the same answer there. So that was on the standard, but if we go here to the between, it'll let you do what it's asking for here, right? Between 2, whoops, that won't make sense. Between 2 and 5. And let's see, did this change? Yeah, so it kept all our N and P and all that. So between 2 and 5, it says is 0.8199. If we round to the nearest thousandth, that would be 0.820. So let's see if it likes that. Okay. So that's how you would do that. All right, so that's how I would expect you to do most of Chapter 6, is just using a calculator or using StatCrunch. For Chapter 5, there's lots of different possible questions. Some of them you're just calculating combinations, right? Which on your calculator you could use the NCR, right? Or you could be doing multiplication rule or addition rule, right? So there's a lot of different ways to calculate in Chapter 5, but Chapter 6 is pretty much just the binomial, right? So as far as if you're doing combinations in the calculator, that one, like, let's say we had 20 people in a group, and or 20 people in a class, and we wanted to know how many different combinations of 3 we could make, right? So you would do 20 total, and then we go to math and over to this PRB menu. And so this has all the stuff that's related to probability. And so we're going to go choose the NCR, which is number 3. And then we said we were going to put them in groups of 3, right? And so that would be how many possible groups of 3 we could create, 1,140. So that's one thing you do in Chapter 5 occasionally. But that also comes up in Chapter 6 because the binomial distribution does use combinations. So if you were, doing the actual formula and trying to work it out by hand, you would be using combinations there as well. All right, so if you have any questions, please let me know. As we get into the next 2 units, so Unit 4 and 5, which are our last units, a lot of that is going to be on the calculator. So I'm not expecting you to have to do a lot of long paper work stuff. You can if you want to do a lot of it by hand, but I'm expecting that you're going to use Excel, StatCrunch, or calculator, something to help you get to those answers without having to do a ton of number crunching, okay? Because really what I like to focus more on is the interpretation of the values, how to get to them, but then also how to explain them, all right? So if you have any questions or you feel like you're spending a whole lot of time on some of these assignments and you want to know if there's a quicker way to do it, feel free to email me or come by my office if you're local, and I'll be happy to show you, how to do it. You also, if you are local in Bowling Green, you can come on campus in Building L. There's a learning center, and you're free to go there to get some math tutoring. We also have a math lab that's open almost every day. There's some openings in there, but definitely on Fridays, all day it's open, and it's over here in Building C, Room 8. It's just a big computer lab, and we've got tutors in there, and so you're welcome to go there and get some free help, all right? But if you're not local, check with your local school. You probably have some tutoring available there as well, so reach out to them and see if you need that extra help, if they have it available for you. All right, and of course I'm always here to help you, so please don't feel bad emailing me or calling me or whatever, because I want to help you get through this semester and be successful in this class. All right, so I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you have a great weekend.